excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
12:01 on Edmonton Sports Talk. That would be 12:01 p.m., right?
Yes.
Yeah, I Google that like once a month. Is noon p.m. or a.m.? Yeah, I still have a hard time figuring out the noon p.m. a.m. thing. I really, sorry, Gager. You're just really good at that?
I go 24-hour clock.
That's okay. Yeah, see, what doesn't make sense to me is we'll get up to 11 a.m. and then the 12 isn't an a.m. It's a p.m.
Oh,
you know, it doesn't make sense to me. You're going from 11, it should be 12, and then you start over again at 1, like the Sesame Street countdown. Yeah, so it's all a.m., but then noon's p.m.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess the count starts at 12, but why would you start the count at 12 and then go right to 1? Well, I guess from a clock.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense now.
There you go.
I'm thinking overall.
I knew you'd talk your way through that one.
I guess I got it now. Okay, that kind of makes sense.
It's hard for some people.
Yeah, sorry,
You get that
man.
reference? Friends? Monica can't tell time?
Oh, I don't. You know, I watched a lot of Friends, but I don't know all the funny quotes.
Well, I do. So,
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm here for.
I'm more of a quotable Seinfeld guy than a Friends person. But I did like Friends. I'm pretty sure I watched every episode.
Cass is ready to.
Oh, is he ready to go? All right. Well,
He's our friend.
Yeah, he's our friend. How's the song go? I can't remember the Friends song. Is there lyrics in it? Sometimes you're not important, it's gonna be okay. Cass joins the show and we can get now underway. Hey, there we go. Cass, are you stuck in first or second gear today? Am I right? Or that's a joke. That's a Friends joke.
First gear, for sure. Is that a Friends joke? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure in the song, doesn't it continue? You're always stuck in second gear. Yeah.
Is it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year?
I'll be there for you. Okay.
When the rain starts to...
Pretty popular song, actually, now that I think about it. I don't know how I could think about that in the first
Here's
place.
a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you guys. Are they currently playing that song in the Oilers dressing room for tonight?
Oh, like I'll be there for you?
Pre-game? Yeah, is that like the pregame song today to get them all jazzed, get them pumped up, get them ready to go?
From an overall team play perspective, I'm not sure.
No.
I'm not sure.
No.
Don't think that's the case right now.
They better play something else.
They gotta get something. They gotta play that Phil Collins. That usually gets people. That usually gets people fired up. Yeah, in the air tonight. Yeah. That's what you need. It's Two Guys A Goalie. We are brought to you by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, and safety driving their success. GS Construction is a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become a part of the team. Visit www.gsconstruction.ca, click Ready to Work, or visit their page at Indeed.ca. And with the Next Up Person program at GS Construction, it's not just a job, it is a career. I sent out like all of our January analytics to all of the clients and stuff. And I said, overall, pretty good, really good month. And everybody, Sandman emails me back. He goes, numbers must be up because I was on. I was like, oh my God. I said, if that's the case, I'm going to hire you. And he goes, give me a few beers and stuff and I'll be back. I was just like, okay, that's okay.
It was well received.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. He did say the F word 3 times, Cass, when we had him on that day.
That's it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me. Like if I go back to the roast of Joaquin Gage years ago, when Sandman was up there, I think he set a record for a roast. I think he set a record.
Yeah.
For most
even other roasters were like,
roast.
"Hey, Sandman, dial it in a bit."
It was
dial in the F-bombs a little bit.
I think
that was a great time.
That was pretty funny, man. I felt completely uncomfortable at that thing.
Yeah,
that was.
I love roasting and hosting, but I would not want to be the roastee.
Oh, it wasn't that. I didn't care.
No, you didn't care about that?
No, walking into the Marriott or the
That's
whatever.
a fancy place.
It was and my name was everywhere.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "What is going on?" I go, "I have no clue." And then we went upstairs. And it was all fancy, and I'm like, "This is way too much."
Had the cool throne, like the hockey
but
throne.
then I walk in, and it's a pretty big room,
huge room,
and I'm like, "Who's coming to this?" Like I figured like a couple of my buddies and stuff would be there, and that's it. But I was so happy to see people start coming. I was like, "Oh, thank God, people actually came to this thing." So
yeah, that was a fun time.
All to make fun of you.
Yeah. You know, I actually chatted with the lady who left. You know, remember there was the lady that left?
Yeah. She's a fan of the show.
Yeah, she was at the fun spiel.
Yeah.
She's a great lady.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name now for the life of me. Anyway, we were having a great chat at the fun spiel. And she goes, I left the Joaquin Gage roast.
Yeah, I know.
There was just too much swearing for me. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like,
well, you started it out with a big F-bomb to sit the blank down.
Yeah. Oh man, I do. Look, I have a bit of a filthy mouth, so that was like my one chance to really let loose in public. So it was that was a lot of fun. Although I did. So what came up was we were talking about the episode with the Sandman.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, you know what? I said, are you okay with the swears? I said, like, the CRTC is not going to do anything because they can't. And his company sponsors the show, so I was like, well, who's going to complain? Him?
Yeah.
But she goes, you know what? It was actually one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, really?
I was like, all right, well, there we go.
Good,
like, there we go.
good.
So she was okay there. So yeah, that was nice to see him pop by.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, that was
best episode ever.
Yeah. Sorry, Kass.
It was a good episode. It was good. It was good. Yeah.
I didn't really say anything, Kass, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah, it was mostly just Andy telling stories, pretty much. All right, it is Two Guys and a Goalie. We are brought to you by GS Construction. We're going to get to the Oilers. We're going to get to all the conversations you want us to get to. If you are watching over on YouTube today, of course, you can hammer the thumbs up for us. That would be great. If you're not yet subbed to the channel, we are less than 10 subs away from 11,300. So give us a sub over there as well and hammer the thumbs up. And of course, if you're listening on TuneIn or iHeart or at Edmonton Sports Talk.com today, EST Afternoons with Gager and Hernan coming up at 1 o'clock, so make sure you stick around for that. But, of course, you can text us anytime. 780-218-9999. 780-218-9999. The first text of the show from Timber Woodsman says, Wild plays Travis Dermott on waivers? Oilers? ? Probably not, although some people are saying veteran left shot D-man. And, well, there he is. Look, boys, we haven't had a show, the three of us, since the Four Nations final. So, Kass, your thoughts on the way it all went down. Connor McDavid, the hero. Binnington with a ridiculous save in overtime. And, this is the first two guys since that final. So, your thoughts on it, Kass?
I mean, I had to sleep on the couch for the next 3 days. So, there's that. With my American wife.
Because your wife's American. Yeah. I was like, wait, what happened? Like, okay, that does make, man, that's got to be a weird thing, eh?
Yeah. As someone pointed out, heavy tariffs in the Kassian household after that game.
Yeah.
No, it was. Hey, that was the best hockey I've seen in a very long time.
Yes.
And that overtime excitement, the excitement was there. I got the score right prediction wise. So Glue Guy owes me a fancy coffee, which is great. Nice. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd quite put it on par with the golden goal, of the Olympics. Not quite there, but it was an awesome tournament and an awesome game. Like there was a perfect game to finish the tournament where it was close. Yeah, it was fast. It really could have gone either way in overtime and earlier in the game, and it was just great. So Binnington comes up huge. The weakest point for Canada throughout the tournament, it has a moment and shines and ultimately gives you a chance to win the hockey game, and the best player in the world finishes it. So it's a dream script by the NHL. It's a dream script for hockey fans to watch. It was amazing. It was awesome. I absolutely loved it.
It was dream script.
My God.
Connor McDavid from Marner with Matthews in between them. Like,
Matthews completely bailing. Yeah. I'm just going to leave this corner guy in front. Yeah, it was the best.
It was, you couldn't have scripted it any better. They lose the game. all the Americans or the people that aren't even interested in hockey are saying how we smacked you around and they don't even watch. But then to come back and like you said, Kass, I'm so glad that it was a game where it was you didn't know who was going to win. There was a lead change.
Yeah.
And it was the other things about it too. Like for me, like I went home. And I was thinking, and I said this before, where am I going to watch this game? What am I going to do? Am I going to phone some friends? And I was like, no, I'm just going home. I got to go home and watch this thing. You say the 2010 one, and I had to work that day, which sucked. But I could actually get home and prepare, and I was just as nervous as all those TikTok and all the videos of families sitting on the couch biting their nails and going crazy, and we had a great moment. Like my daughter got home from dance, my wife was there, we were all watching, my wife was yelling at the TV, Lily was going nuts, and then they scored. Lily jumps up, hugs me, my wife was like got all excited, she jumped up. And then my dog starts barking, and we were. It was just the whole family just went nuts. Went nuts. So not only it was so good on so many other levels. I think with families and things like that, especially Canadian families. I just want to go back to that moment. I want it to pause there for another week and just soak that whole thing in, because what a great week and a half.
Greatest in-person fan moment of my life.
Oh yeah,
like
you
just
were
like,
there.
Yeah,
so tell us more about that, Dusty. Like what was that feeling like being there?
I can't even.
So you're in the box.
We're in a suite, and we get there. First of all, we head downtown. I got my McDavid jersey on, and Huss has his Morrissey jersey, and Jake's got on his Crosby jersey, and we literally take an Uber down. We get out of the stadium, out of the Uber, step onto the sidewalk, and the first guy, big burly American, walks by. I was like, 51st date, boys. And I was like, oh no, here it goes. And we actually found, it was really busy outside the game. We found a place where there was actually a bunch of Canadians. Bumped into a guy who played in the world's longest hockey game. Come on. Yeah, not with me. He played the year after I did. So I chatted with him for a little bit. And then we went into the game, and it was a pretty steady diet of chirps. And then we got up to the suite, and we were there like an hour early, so we're waiting, and it's just like I've been working in the media for so long that I go to a lot of sporting events, but it's never as a fan. I've never gone to like watch LeBron in person, who I'd get excited for. The Habs fandom is lost. It would have been like me going to a Habs playoff game when I was 20. Yeah. But I'm 43. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a couple beers. And then once Canada fell down 2-1, it was like the suite to the right of us was Americans. The suite to the left of us was half Canadians, half Americans. But the Americans in the suite to the left of us, and it was like glass where the seats were, they were banging and giving us the gears, and our guys were yelling mean stuff back. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is getting carried away. The one guy was pointing, he was going to walk out and go with them. Like, I was just like, what is going on? And then for like pretty much the entire third period and overtime, I couldn't drink. I couldn't eat. I was so nervous that we were going to I wanted to win, but I did not want to lose to all the Americans and then when they score, as soon as I saw it go to McDavid in the slot, I jumped up I was like, oh my God. And then it was just, I can't even remember the next minute. I hadn't felt that since I was a kid. Yeah. And that was so cool, man. Yeah. It was, and I might not ever get that opportunity again. Like it was so cool.
Isn't that just the coolest thing? And that may be one of my favorite things about sports. And we know we talk about it. And I say all the time to people, when I'm talking to them, just in regular life friends and people you meet, it's like sports is one of the great analogies of life. You can pull so much from it. You can learn so much from it. And sometimes we get carried away with it. And I think that sometimes families get carried away with that and get too obsessed with it. And it becomes all consuming and all controlling. But sports at its best, Dusty, do exactly what you described. Yes. Right? Like where it and I know it doesn't unify the US and Canada because there's antagonistic qualities between, two rival countries or two rival teams competing. But it's just like you think about that moment for you and that feeling for you, and there was that feeling for so many different people that are just all different backgrounds, different beliefs, different values, different lifestyles, different upbringings, different everything, and it just is like we all had that same feeling in that moment of just, it's like that warm, fuzzy, like it's joy. And it's like sports at its best is able to unify people in a beautiful way that maybe normally wouldn't be unified and wouldn't have those feelings. And it's like you get to collectively as a group and as a whole experience that. So I love hearing that, Dusty, because it's so true. It's like it's such a beautiful moment in a world that so often beats us or beats people down. Like, the world is cruel and tough and horrible, and there's beautiful things in it. But this is just one of those moments where it's just joyful, right? So I love it. I love hearing that. I love that you felt that way. It's great. It is just great. Makes me smile too. It's wonderful.
I was so exhausted.
Oh yeah, that's
after the cheering. Like we were ready to say, it was like 11:15, and a bunch of the guys. I had to leave early, so I wasn't. But I could have sat there and drank 30 beers and I wouldn't have got a buzz.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, oh my God, take me home. Like it was just one of those all time, like once in a lifetime things. It was incredible, man. And it was so good to see them here's an interesting text. Baggio texts in, and it's Two Guys A Goalie presented by GS Construction here on Edmonton Sports Talk. If you're watching over on YouTube today, hammer the thumbs up for us, sub to the channel if you haven't already. And obviously you can hit us up in the nasty chat. Also, I do want to give a quick shout out to RCN, who had a tweet that blew up after, I don't know if you saw this one. But it got like almost 4,000 likes. It was that moment when Shawn Michaels looked at Ric Flair and was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then gave him the sweet chin music. It's Marner looking at Matthews before passing the puck to McDavid. He looks at Matthews and he's like, I'm sorry, man. And passes it to McDavid and buries it. Like, that's good, right?
That was really good. That was really, really good.
Funny how that all tied in. And you know what? I gave Cooper a ton of credit. Like, he went back to Marner. Because Marner, you could tell Marner was feeling it a bit that game. Went back to Marner, to McDavid, and it all paid off. I thought Cooper did a really good job in the tourney cast.
Yeah, I think overall he did. One of those a combination of gut feeling and evaluation on the fly, like with Marner, where it's like you see guys having a night, and so you're giving him an opportunity. And ultimately, we have to say he made the right decisions. They won the tournament.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah, sticking with Binnington, like it all worked out.
Yeah, I was just about to say, sticking with Binnington, running with the same goalie, where there was some questionable goaltending moments earlier in the tournament, but running with him the whole time, knowing that it's a short tournament. Ultimately, I don't want to say it's not like it's a gutsy decision. Mitch Marner's a fantastic player, so it's not like you're putting out
he's a 100-point guy
Kassian onto the ice. Yeah, it's not like you're like, I'm going to put this fourth line PK specialist out in overtime to try and score a goal. Like it's not like he did that, but to recognize in the moment that Marner was having a game and to say, hey, there's something here tonight. And I gotta switch these things around and run a little bit with Marner in overtime. I mean, it's a great call. So great job by Cooper to recognize that. And even I think later in the game when it was close, one of the things that I appreciated was he still went to some of his role players at times. And even for the goal, like the game tying goal, like to go with that line and to continue to put some of the other guys out and keep them involved was a good decision as well. So we kind of got to give him an A, don't we? If you're grading, what would you guys give Cooper overall? I mean, I would give him an A.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was perfect.
Deliver the dub, push the right buttons when needed to.
And I was like watching that and watching Canada and the US when you get hockey played at that level, like that high a level, it reverts back to its simplest form, I find, where it's just, getting the puck deep, grinding. And then there are plays like the last one that you make where it's just such a fine line between mistakes. Like that almost gets tipped by Matthews, right? Like the pass from Marner and the play from Makar, the recognition of seeing the cross ice and wrapping it around. Like, but everything else was just in the trenches, dogfight for every single inch of space on the ice. Like no one had any time and space. It was gorgeous. It was perfect hockey. It was I like. What were you when Binnington's making those saves? You guys must have been.
Well,
going,
I was still trying to keep, because we had 2 rows of seats, and then there was some standing, at the ledge of the the suite. And I felt bad because I was sitting in the second row seats, but when I jump up and I knew there was people behind me, so so when he made that save on Tkachuk, I mean, I was up there. I turned around. I was like, sorry. Like, just what a ridiculous save.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, sorry, guys. I'll sit back down here in one of the greatest overtimes I've ever seen in my life. But this is back to the Baggio text I wanted to get to. It says, dumb take, ? Was it being a shorter tournament that made it even more exciting? Ooh. Like 0 room for error. Every game counted. We're at it was almost a single elimination. When you're at the Olympics, you're going to play 5-6 round robin games, and then do you think that made it better because it was so short and so deadly right away?
Yeah, because there was only one game that didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right? Out of all those games, only one of them was meaningless, basically, at that point. And you didn't even know that until the day and the game before, right? So maybe that's something that they have to take into consideration. Because I saw Bettman talk about, and he had a huge grin on his face, because I don't think they even thought that it was going to be this successful, right? I mean, they just hit it at the right time, right place, and it just took off. So now he actually said this actually makes a lot more work for us, because we want to try to replicate this thing, but we want to make it right again. So the bar is set so high that you don't want to, you don't want to miss your mark when next time you take your shot with this thing. And he mentioned about World Cup and things like that, a few more countries. I'm all for it. I think that's great. But man, it's this 4-team thing. It's pretty perfect.
It was. I mean, I ended up loving it.
I loved it, man.
Kass, how much of it you think was just the fact that it was like, here you go, you play these 3 teams. If you lose, you're probably screwed, or you're going to need some help. What do you think of that?
Well, it adds the stakes to it, doesn't it? Like intention, which is a beautiful thing.
It almost felt like March Madness ish,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Which is great. I mean, my fear is at the same time you have maybe the best team and you have one bad game and that could be it. And that you could deprive a final that was as beautiful as we saw between the 2 best teams.
Yeah.
But there is something to that where it's like every mistake counts, every moment counts, every shift counts.
Winning in regulation counts.
Every inch
really,
counts. Winning in regulation count. Like everything matters. And I mean, I think I like that assessment that you just made, like the March Madness vibe, where it had that to it, where it's like, you could be the best team, but you could get knocked out. You play one bad game, that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
And that's kind of awesome. So
that's why the madness is the madness, right? Like it's just
yeah.
I
mean, that tension is fun. Yeah.
Gordon McDowell over in the Nasty chat, and you can chime in with us there, or you can text us at 780-218-9999. Gordon says, seeing how well John Cooper ran that bench and talked to the media, you can see why players in Tampa want to never leave that team when they have a coach like that.
Yeah.
Kind of a taste of the nation of what they deal with Tampa, right? Like
they also, but you also have, goaltender and Hedman,
good
and
taxes,
because that's like no taxes, and the beach, and you've had world-class players, some of the best in the world to play with, so you've been really good for a long time. So there's there's not just the coach, like there's lots of other stuff too. But it all does combine. Like I don't base, at least on how they communicate to the media, I don't base how a coach is in a room with that. Now, see how he was running the bench. Yeah, great. He did a great job in that. But yeah, Florida's got a lot of other stuff going on, or Tampa rather.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to hearing the way the guy talks about how, like, I put him and both coaches in Florida, like Paul Maurice when he's in, like they both seem pretty genuine.
I'd love to listen to those two guys do a podcast together.
Oh my God.
Hey,
that would be
fun?
awesome.
Yeah, that would be great.
I mean, Maddie was saying one of his favorite guests that he booked was John Cooper back in the
day.
And he just said, talking to him on the phone, you would have thought that they'd been friends for a long time, and he was so gracious with everything, answered I think that comes across. And I realize some coaches are guarded and they're not as open as some of these other guys. But come on, like some of his comments are world class. Like after they won their first cup, I believe in the here in Edmonton in the bubble, he goes, he said, yeah, this this seclusion stuff, it's not good for the waistline. We're going home 47 pounds heavier.
Yeah, that's a great line.
Great line.
That's a great line.
Like just
yeah.
He and then I loved what he said about just the whole thing. I mean, this was in this scenario, those, all these guys on the team, they recognized that this whole thing was bigger than themselves, bigger than everything. Like this meant a lot to Canada, to Canadians, and they embraced that challenge. And it's funny how I love these types of tournaments where you see other players and you have an appreciation for them a little bit more. Like I saw so many Leafs fans going, how do I like Brad Marchand?
How did anybody like Brad Marchand?
And people saying, God, I love Mitch Marner now. Like it's just Drew Doughty's the best guy in the world. Like all this other stuff. It's great. It's fantastic.
It's funny because we haven't seen it in so long, right? That's why it was even better than maybe.
And that's what I hope that I don't like.
I think I heard you guys talking about that.
I don't know.
I was driving back on Friday about how often you want to see
where's the sweet spot for that? Because you don't want to. And I think I made reference to the outdoor games. You don't need it. I think it'll lose its luster.
Did you know there's one this weekend?
Is there?
There's a 90,000 ticket Stadium Series game this weekend.
Where?
Columbus at Ohio State.
I didn't even know that. No.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Huss brought it up to the lunch. I was like, man, I didn't even know that. But that's a good stuff. Like, it just becomes one of those things. You don't want it to become the norm. You want it to be special.
Yeah,
and
definitely,
it was definitely special this time around.
Here's a question based on a comment in the nasty chat from Penner's Pancakes, frequent contributor, but I think it's a great way to go here because I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Penner's Pancakes says, let me just get to it. Well, I would love to see a 3-2-1 point system, but in that, so we see the 3-2-1 point system. We talk about the tension and, winning in regulation matters. Do you guys think that this could sway the NHL or start to move the needle in the direction of having a 3-2-1 point system for the regular season?
I hope so. We saw what it does, and I think Reed actually went through and did the top.
Well, there's a website
that does it, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
And I think he had the Oilers were they dropped a few places, right? There wasn't too much change, but yeah, I'm all for it. I think they need to change it to this, especially. And I think I said this before, where at the end of the year, you're going to find from at the top of the table and the bottom, guys trying to get home ice or guys trying to make that push to game to make the playoffs, and they're going to have to adjust accordingly in game, right? So yeah, I think it's time.
I'm fully on board for it. Like I hate the fact that some of your games are valued more than others.
Yeah.
Like there are NHL games where 2 points are given out and there are NHL games where 3 points are given out. Mm-hmm. And it's not like that in baseball. It's not like that in basketball. It's not like that in football. Like it's to me right now, it's a flawed system. Like the true system would be to make sure that 3 points are awarded or the same amount of points are awarded for every single game. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, it's common sense. I don't know if the National Hockey League will go there or if they even would consider to go into like 7 minutes of overtime, like meet in the middle somewhere as well. So, Kass, you think they would say, too small a sample size to move it towards an 82 game schedule?
Maybe they might. I hope they don't. Like I hate that some games are 2 points, some games are 3 points, right? Like it just,
it makes no sense.
I like the stakes and I like the stakes of teams that are chasing towards the end of the season, having the opportunity to get 3 points, right? And bigger swings, I think it makes it for more tension. So I hope they don't say that. I don't see how you could say it's too small a sample size. It just, to me, it adds tension. It just does. Like it has to, especially towards the end of the season where you have teams that are going to be like, it's going to make position changes.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to see major swings. Oh, we lost Kass.
We lost Kass right when he said position changes. I think he's coming back. There he is. He's back.
Yeah,
Sorry, Kass. You said position changes and then you froze.
Yeah, just more position changes. And to me, it's just it would create more tension. It's just better. It's just better. It is just better. So I hope they don't look at it and say, "Oh, it's too small a sample size," because I don't think it was. I think you saw enough with it that hopefully they're on board.
All right, should we get back to reality?
I guess
this was a nice 30-minute trip back to last week.
We just all crammed into the DeLorean there.
It was really nice. Somebody in the chat was like, "Can you guys just keep talking about this for the whole 60 minutes? Positivity's nice." Yeah. Well, we'll get the hired or fired. We'll come back around to that hired or fired for GS Construction as well. The Oilers do get the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. We'll get to the whole conversation of goaltending, and we'll get around the NHL too. Here are the line combinations for tonight: McDavid between Hyman and Arvidsson. Draisaitl between Savoy and Podkolzin, Nuge with Brown and Janmark, Henrique with Perry and Kapanen, Jeff Skinner healthy scratched, Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Stetcher, Kulak, Emberson, Klingberg scratched tonight, and then Stuart Skinner will get the start. Kass, your thoughts on Hyman and Arvidsson with McDavid, Savoy, Podkolzin with Draisaitl, and then Brown and Matthias Janmark with Nuge.
Well, you got to do something. Were the forwards the big issue the last two games? Maybe a little bit. I
think they contributed
a lot, but
yeah,
they contributed. I mean, overall defensive play, overall team play. Like you got to mix it up. You've dropped 4 straight, and you got spanked 2 straight. So, like, we've seen some of these lines before. I'm not surprised that Knobloch went through the blender, and you kind of had to with the quality of team play. Like, you couldn't leave everything the same. So it's not like it's shocking to me. I think the one guy on there, if we want to talk about him, is, and coming out of the Four Nations, is Arvidsson.
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't deserve to be there, but based on how the team is playing, it's like he's going to get a look playing with McDavid. Now, is that look going to turn into something positive? I certainly hope so. He was a guy coming out of the Four Nations that we were hoping found his game a little bit more. Hasn't yet. But that, if anything, out of the new look of how the lines are going to start tonight, I'm kind of like, okay, let's see how Arvidsson does with McDavid and see if that can jumpstart him at all, because he still needs to find another level that he just hasn't really found consistently throughout this season.
I mean, I think, like, after watching the weekend, I would have kept Skinner in and scratched Arvidsson, to be honest with you. If one of those two guys,
Skinner's been productive.
Yeah, like I don't know, and you can say, well, look, guys in the penalty kill have to be in, but the penalty kill has been garbage too over like the last 7 or 8 games, like really, really, really bad. So I don't think you have to make a case to keep in penalty killers because they're penalty killing when the penalty killing's been in the tank for a little while. Yeah. So. I mean, if I'm Jeff Skinner, I'm seeing Victor Arvidsson get to play with Connor McDavid, and I'm watching from the press box. I'm extremely confused at this point if I'm Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, because he's got more goals than everyone else. He scores a pretty good one in the last 2 games. I don't know, man. I don't know what it is that they don't. I thought his game was getting to the level where it was acceptable on both sides of the puck, where they would be comfortable playing him in the top 6 a little bit more, moonlighting here and seeing how it goes, because I think he's earned that spot. It's puzzling, but really, I could care less what the lines look like tonight, guys. I want to see an effort. I want to see a little bit more, a little bit more physicality, a little bit more of a mean on. Like enough's enough. Dropping 4 straight, haven't been good. It's basically been men's league hockey that the Oilers have played. They haven't made it difficult in any aspect on the other team. And your 3 things: your defensive play, penalty killing have been atrocious. The goaltending has not been good over the last 3 games either, right? So those 3 things, if they're not good, you're not going to win. So I want to see show me something like that. This whole Four Nations. Sorry to go back to it. I got emotionally engaged with those because they were.
Yeah.
And I was so let down over the weekend because I was looking forward to watching more, and it just was like, meh. You guys don't really care about this. Let's show Oilers fans, and I think they would be happy with it for the most part. Just show you care. Just show you really care.
How much do you guys think of that? Is that it were, coming out of the break, it was 2 morning games, like not regular routine. It was 2 odd times for games.
That's got to be a little bit weird trying to pick back up in the afternoons. But I also know that they started the last 2 seasons really slow, getting out of the gate. So, it seems like it's a trait of this team that when they have a little bit of time off, like what they have last year before the Stanley Cup final, 5 games, 5 days off, and came out and fell behind 3-0. Like I don't know. I can't explain it. Kass, you played. I mean, what would that have been like for you guys to start in the middle of the afternoon after not playing for 2 weeks?
I mean, it'd be horrible for me, but I was a horrible day off player, we call it, where I was just like, I like staying on the ice and staying consistent because I sucked if I didn't. With that being said, I went long stretches where I wasn't playing a game, but I was still on the ice practicing. It was like, as long as I was on the ice, I was okay. It would be weird. And I want to give them, there's a part of me that wants to give them a pass game 1. Like that very first game back, and even after where I was just like, first game back, morning game, whatever. But then the Washington game happened, and it was like, okay, there should be no excuses. Like you played a game, you got it out of your system, or you should have been able to get it out of your system. It wasn't like it was tough travel back to back. Like you would have been in early, had time, and there's no excuses on that second night. First one, again, not to make an excuse, but it's like I can understand that, but you raise an interesting point of like it's a trait of this team in the past that they seem to struggle with that. And if you know that as a team, you have to find ways to overcome it. Like if you know that that's your default mode, is that you get a break and you don't come back from buffer, like you're still buffering, you haven't fully rebooted yet. You have to find ways as a group to overcome that, and they haven't, and they didn't in that second game in particular. So. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting situation, or an interesting trait. Maybe that's a better word than situation. It's an interesting trait of this team that they really seem to struggle in those moments. And I don't have an easy answer for you guys, because it's like you ultimately the answer has to come from within the room, where it's like they figure that crap out, and they just haven't. Maybe they do today. I guess we'll see tonight.
I mean,
do you think they will tonight, Gager? You sometimes have a pretty good read on this team. Like, what do you think that happens tonight? I have no idea.
I really haven't. Yeah. I'm in your boat. Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I mean, Philly and Washington seemed just fine. They played a good game. And how many times have we heard to a man the guys that have been with this team for a while talking about, we can't wait to get to the games that really mean something. And you get into the last part of the season here. You're getting closer to playing those types of games. You'd think that now that there's that light at the end of the tunnel is a lot closer to that point, they'd be a little bit more jazzed. And maybe going through Florida now you're playing teams that they're. If you get to where you want to be, you could be playing one of these guys right at the end when it's all said and done. So. Maybe you get a little. Well, you better get a better effort, or else it's just going to be absolutely gross again tonight.
All right, we've done the unthinkable. We've gone 40 minutes on 2 Guys and a Goalie today without talking about goaltending, but we also can't just simply gloss over it. I know I chatted with Gage a little bit about it on the Nielson show this morning, but Kass, your thoughts on the vitriol that we're seeing for both goaltenders coming through the weekend, and many fans in this market basically saying you're completely wasting your time in the playoffs if you don't address the goaltending before the deadline.
That is not Bowman's primary concern. And I hate to frustrate everyone and disappoint you, but very unlikely that a change is made in the goaltending category. So you better learn to emotionally cope, because it's not going to change. I get roasted all the time by a specific group of people in the nasty chat in particular about the goaltending, because there has been so much of it so often that I don't think has been solely alone the goalie's fault. And that even in these two games, like, can you look at that and say, oh, it's only the goalie's fault that they lost, or it's primarily, not even only, but primarily the goalie's loss that's at fault? And I still kind of have to go, well, no, probably not, right? Which I'm going to get roasted again for saying that. But it's like, you look at the goals scored against, and you're kind of like, okay. And the fallback comment, the throwaway comment, the comment that everyone always puts out there every single time is, we just need the big save. If they just had the big save, they would have won the game. And I'm like, would they, though, with the way the team played around them? They had that big save. Would they have won that game? Like, did you expect them to completely steal every game? The answer is that says no. I understand the concern. I think it's a reasonable concern. It's a goalie tandem that took you within one goal of the Stanley Cup last year. You're not going to rush out to address the goaltending. You're going to try to address your defense first and foremost. They have to do that. Secondly, your defense first and foremost. You have to. Second, you have to get a little bit better in your depth, maybe a little bit more physicality, a little bit more grit in your game, a little bit of versatility in the bottom half of your lineup. And then you address the goaltending. But they're not going to be able to do all three, guys. They don't have the cap space. They don't have the assets, and it's not going to happen. So, I get that people are frustrated. I get that there's the heat on them. But to me, as it has been frequent times this year, that's not where the heat needs to be. The heat needs to be, this defense has to get better. The heat needs to be, this team has to play a more complete game. We have to see greater efforts in game, because they do mean something right now. That's where the vitriol should be directed. But, in years past, it was primarily Darnell Nurse, right? Like, he was the guy.
Yeah, he's been steady.
Something.
Yeah.
And he's been really steady. And so people are looking to vent the frustration and the outrage somewhere. And goaltending and Evan Bouchard are the primary places where it lands. So yeah, you're not changing the goaltending, guys. You're not. I would be floored if they make a trade for a goaltender.
I pointed it out on because the hot name is John Gibson, and I pointed it out on or on the Nielsen show this morning, the 6 o'clock hour, that 4 months ago, if I would have come on the show and been like, you should trade Skinner for John Gibson, people would have been waiting outside with pitchforks. I mean, he was 26 years old. He had a career save percentage around, I think, like 909 at that time. He was coming off Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. He'd been a Calder nominee. He'd been an All-Star. And then this year, his save percentage is below 900. John Gibson, the last 3 years, was 904, 998, and 888, or 888, 898, and 888.
Yeah.
And he's had a good stretch so far this season. And now you're just going to flip Skinner for, I don't see a world where that happens. And does he need to be better? Yeah, he needs to be better. But Gager, he should be able to be better, right? They should be able to get more out of Stuart Skinner. We've seen it here. Like, he's been better here than he has been recently. Like,
he needs to be better. Right? He does. The last few starts, and even before the break, I thought his game was kind of slipping a little bit. There was too many times where you're watching that game. At the end of the game, one of the big things is Stuart Skinner would like that one back. You gotta try to eliminate those as much as possible here. But that also comes from better defensive play. Like, I don't care what goalie you have.
Yeah.
If you're not a little bit tighter defensively and not giving up, not just giving teams, allowing teams to on turnovers and giving them these chances, you're not going to be successful. So I think there's a direct correlation between Stuart Skinner's play and the defensive play of the Edmonton Oilers, which is what it's like for most goalies.
That's how it works for most goalies, right?
That's the way it is. And then I think he is able then to get to a level that when the defense is solid and structured, allows the way that he plays, the ability to just play his game, make the first save. He's really good on rebounds, and with at times being able to take 1 or 2 goals away from the other team. But it has to be a team effort from there. I'm sorry, man. You said this stat, which is amazing. Connor McDavid, -9 in three
last
straight.
3 games, first Oiler ever to have that stretch.
You only go as far as your big dogs, right? So and Hernan and I were talking about it too, and Coach Noblos said it, I don't like the fact that this team thinks that this is a switch and they can just turn this back on. Unless it's
You're playing with fire there, right?
You can't keep chasing these games. You can't keep playing from behind and chasing. It exhausts you. You have to, throughout the whole lineup, has to be a conscious effort on the defensive play and making the right plays. Noblas said it. We had too many guys trying to make plays that weren't there. The decision making has to be better with the puck, taking care of it, whatever, managing the game, and making sure you're just not giving teams opportunities and great chances to score.
Where is it? Gordon over in the nasty chat says you can get a championship out of above average goaltending if you have Vegas's defense, and that's if you improve the defense, your goaltending will probably be fine.
Well, look, I mean, they got there, and what did we just say? Darnell Nurse had an off season last year, right? And that was kind of the Achilles heel.
Bouchard was better than he is now.
Bouchard was way better.
Yeah.
They replaced Desharnais. Broberg came in. We all know what Ekholm was like. My boy Kulak was doing Kulak things. So no, and what Stuart Skinner was able to do with that group was get to the Stanley Cup final and almost win. So, but these guys have to be Bouchard. Someone has to get a shot collar on this kid and zap him every time he doesn't
find a little bit of juice in his game.
Right?
That would be funny if you actually see it at one point. You're like, oh, I think they've actually got a collar on Bouchard. Peter over in the chat says, or in the inbox at 780-218, and keep that inbox hopping with EST afternoons coming up here as well with Hernan and Gager. The team is frustrating to watch right now, but long term, this team is fine. I'd like him to add a legit top 4 D-man and figure out your forward combos, but come playoff times, they will be the team to beat, and they are still the Stanley Cup favorite with our betting partners over at Coolbet. Let's dive into Hire It or Fire It for GS Construction. A little look back to the 4 nations and some stuff around the league. Hire It or Fire It, pretty simple for GS. They're hiring today. I will give you a take. The boys can hire it or fire it. Kass, we'll start with you on this one. Carolina should trade Rantanen if he will not sign before the deadline. Hire it or fire it?
Fire it. You're trying to win a cup.
So you just suck it up and ride it out?
You suck it up and ride it out. That would really suck for them, but I think you got to fire it.
I'm going to hire it. He's only got 1 goal, doesn't he?
He hasn't fit in great
out,
there.
Doesn't fit. Get what you can. Move on.
So just salvage, get what you can back, and try to recoup most of what you gave up, sort of thing.
You gave up. You lost that deal so far with Natchez.
Yeah.
Natchez is on Fuego in Colorado, right?
It's looking like a really good deal for the Avs right now.
Yeah, I know.
It's a really good deal.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Sidney Crosby should just ride things out and retire as a Pen. Hired or fired?
Fire. You go first.
I
want to see him play in the Cup?
I got time for him to go to Colorado.
Yeah.
And join his buddy there.
Can you imagine if they trade for Crosby before the deadline this year, and then the Oilers play the Avs in the first round, and it's McKinnon, Makar, and Crosby?
I would love it.
But here's what would drive Oilers fans the most crazy: a team that addressed their goaltending mid-season in Colorado. You know, like
they not only did that, they got rid of both.
Yeah, they didn't mess around.
But I think that would be unfounded to jump on that, because they have Makar and they have Taves, and they don't need better defense. So it's like it's not the same situation.
So even though they changed their goalies, they just have a better defense anyway. That's what you're saying. Like,
it was more clear that the goalies were an issue for the
because the goalies sucked behind those guys already anyway.
Behind those guys already. That to me is the thing where I think it's different if you have better defense that and a better team play in front of you when people jump on the goalies here. So
yeah,
I gotta was fire it.
Hire it would be he stays in Pittsburgh.
Right, hire it. I want to see him stay at Penn. I want to see him. There's so few players, and even guys. I know at the twilight of their career, they go to different teams and try to win. But to me, it's like Crosby has his cup.
Yeah, we have a chance to see Ovi and Sid go front to back.
I
want to see him. I want to see him stick with the same team. For as fun as it would be to see him get another shot in the playoffs, I'm like, I'm not. It's not a situation where I'm like, I really want to see Sidney Crosby win a Stanley Cup before his career is over, because he doesn't have one, because he does, and it's not like the argument can be made against Crosby where he's not one of the best all time because he doesn't have a cup, because he does. And so for me, I'm just like, I want to see him ride it out with the same organization. I want to see him stay.
As long as he plays in the Olympics next year, I don't really care, I guess.
Right.
All right, hire it or fire it. Tom Wilson needs to be on the Olympic team next year.
I'm going to hire it. What we saw with the Tkachuk brothers, they're fantastic. I hate them both, but they're fantastic hockey players. I think that Tom Wilson just can add that extra little bit of aggressiveness and
gives you a little bit of a bad guy, right?
You got the bad guy, and the bad guy puts the puck in the net too.
Yeah, having a great year.
Yeah, I would like to see him with McDavid, actually, just because
that's what I was just about to say.
Oh shoot, sorry, Kass.
No. It's beautiful, because we're thinking the same thing. Like I would hire it for that reason exactly. Yeah. I'm like, I didn't know you were going to go there, but I was going to be like, can you think back to Maroon and how he was able to finish with McDavid? And that's Patrick Maroon.
Yeah, he can't skate anywhere near as well as Tom Wilson can fly.
Right. Like where I'm just like having a guy that's a puck retriever that disturbs on the forecheck, that turns pucks over and can create some of that space. I'm here for that. So yeah, I gotta hire it. I think he should be. That'd be fun.
We haven't seen McDavid play with a big beast winger who can fly and put the puck in the net.
Yeah. They thought it was going to be Lucic. Okay, and then last one, hire it or fire it. Brady Tkachuk is the most underrated player in the league.
Underrated.
I think underrated might be the wrong word I used here, but he's under something. He's underviewed or something. Like, I need more Brady Tkachuk in my life.
I think if you were to phrase the question, who has the four nations benefited the most?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would put him in that category. Finally,
that's why I'm asking the question. I was just trying to tie it in. Yeah.
So because he was able to raise his game to be considered one of the best players on the planet, right? He's in that conversation. The way he can play. So yeah, I'm gonna hire.
He was the only time when he was on the ice for the U.S. forwards in that game. I was worried when he was in the offensive zone. I was like, man, you gotta be careful. This guy's out there.
Yeah,
he can hurt you right now. I mean, like both ways.
I still got to fire it, though, and maybe just because of the way the question is worded. And he was the guy I picked to be the X factor. I still got to go Jacob Slavin with the Carolina Hurricanes.
He got a lot of love coming out of this thing, too.
Jeez.
He is good, isn't he?
Like where you think underrated. Oh, yeah. Fat chance of that happening. Oh, my goodness. He is a stud. Absolute stud, and I think maybe a little bit of a wake-up call for people that really watch and pay attention to defense and defensemen and that, where I'm like, that guy's legit.
Quick side question, just to wrap here. How do you think Bouchard would have handled being on that Team Canada with the way those games
played? He never would have played.
I'm just thinking about the way he's played this year. I don't think they could have got him in the lineup, man.
That's the first thing I noticed. Obviously, the speed of the game was different, but I kind of equate that to guys have been off for a little bit. But I was sitting there and I was watching a game. I go, there is no way Bouchard would be able to handle the speed in the forecheck and the play without the
pressure
puck.
Of the forecheck. Yeah, that's exactly where my mind went. Is like his, when he struggles, typically it's when he's under a lot of pressure in the defensive zone. Like when he has a little bit of time because players know that McDavid's out there and they, they're not gapped up and they're thinking about playing defense and they're not aggressively forechecking. That's when he's at his best, and I just think he really would have struggled with the pace of play because he would have never had any time and space.
You watch tonight. Watch tonight when he gets the puck. Watch Lightning are going to force him like crazy because they know that there's a good chance that he'll work a little give and go with him.
All right, we're going to wrap.
And that's where he struggles, but yeah.
We're going to wrap two guys in the goalie. People saying maybe fire it with Wilson just because it's going to be international, no fights, bigger ice. It's actually not going to be bigger ice. They're going to be playing the Olympics on NHL-size ice. So, can still run around a little bit for sure there. All right, that's prediction for tonight.
Tampa, 5-2.
Oh, boy. Post-game's going to be something else tonight.
I can't wait.
Cass, what happens?
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, 4-2.
4-2. Edmonton. All right, there you go. And I have no clue. I'm not even making a prediction. I don't know. I don't know what I do. Two Guys A Goalie brought to you by GS Construction. EST Afternoons coming up. What do you guys, what do you got?
Eric Endelson from the Lightning Insider and Eddie Selfco from the Mavs.com.
Oh, Mavs Lakers tonight. Look at this. Association show. That's exciting. For Matt Kassian, Joaquin Gage, I'm Dustin Nielson. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock on the Nielson Show. Enjoy the rest of the coverage here leading up to this Oilers and Lightning game tonight on Edmonton Sports Talk. Take it easy.